At Capella University, learning online doesn't mean learning alone. You'll get support from people who care about your success, like your enrollment specialist who gets to know you and the goals you'd like to achieve. You'll also get a designated academic coach who's with you throughout your entire program. Plus, career coaches are available to help you navigate your professional goals. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
The Kia Sportage Turbo Hybrid has a bold design, a spacious interior with 232 horsepower, and a 12.3-inch panoramic display to keep the adventure going and fit with the way you live. And with SiriusXM, every drive comes alive, bringing you closer to the music, sports, talk, and podcasts you love, right in your vehicle or on the SiriusXM app. Every SiriusXM-equipped Kia Sportage Turbo Hybrid includes a 3-month trial subscription to SiriusXM, so the experience begins the moment you drive. Learn more at kia.com/sportage-hybrid. Kia, movement that inspires.
The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline, of Phoenix Suns podcast. The Suns finally lost a game. Sam, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. The Suns unfortunately did finally lose a game. Blew a bit of a lead against the God, why can't I remember their name? Who did we play yesterday?
Hawks.
The Hawks. Thank you. I think it was Atlanta. I can't even remember anymore.
Yeah.
Trae Young wasn't there, so are they even the Hawks without Trae Young? But look, it was going to happen eventually. I'm not freaking out about it. We know the schedule coming up is tough. I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. But this team has stuff to clean up. I don't think our expectations of what they should be are unrealistic, though. So one loss doesn't have me too scared.
Yeah, we'll go through the schedule a little bit later in this podcast and just talk about what the next few games are going to look like, because I do think, they did have what quote unquote was the soft part of the schedule. We talked about that on our last Patreon podcast. It really wasn't supposed to be a soft part of the schedule, but it turns out those Clipper games were not quite what they were stacked up to be ahead of time. And of course, there were just guys missing, and the teams ended up being a little bit different than what we anticipated. But the schedule still does get a little tougher going forward. So I do think having a conversation at the end of this podcast about expectations for the next few weeks is definitely something we should do. But hey, people can see the name of this podcast. They can see what this podcast is about. So we should mention it. Coming up in just a few minutes here, we're going to have a conversation with Collin Gillespie, a conversation that Sam and I recorded on Saturday. Shout out to the Phoenix Suns for making that possible. I should mention Collin Gillespie. We recorded this interview Saturday. I'm watching the game Sunday, and I'm like, is Collin about to have a triple-double? Is this man about to have a triple-double right before we release an interview with Collin? He was really, really good in that game and had sort of the signature moment of that game.
Yeah, no, he really did. Him and you're talking about the play where he saved a ball and then Jordan Goodwin. Yeah, Jordan Goodwin scooped it up. The other half of that play, I mean, that was like astounding. Yeah, they lost the game, and but that was an astounding play that happened in the fourth quarter too, I think. Collin had 15 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. So just a really, really awesome game. He's been great all season long. We were stoked to have the opportunity to talk to him, and it's people are gonna get to hear it shortly here. Yes,
he's been really good all season, and just has been a really great story last year to this year. So I won't wait any longer. Let's switch over to that interview right now. We'll come back and talk about the rest of the season. All right, very excited. Joining us from the Phoenix Suns is guard Collin Gillespie. Collin, thank you so much for making the time to join us today.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys having me.
Definitely. First of all, I want to start by saying congratulations on your contract this year and all the hard work that it took to get to it. I'm excited. Yeah, of course. And, I was looking at your career, actually, And thinking about all it took for you to get to this point in the NBA, looking back at your college, your years at Villanova, and all the NBA players you played with, and I realized you played against one of your longest teammates that you had in the last game against Jeremiah Robinson Earl. I was just curious if there was anything a little extra when you play against an old college teammate like that in JRE.
Yeah, I mean, I played with J-Rob for 2 years. The 2 years that he was there, we were teammates. We got extremely close. We were roommates. So, I don't think I have anything extra, but it's just always fun to get to see those guys, to get to play against them, uh, with another team because we played against each other in practice, and then we're on the same team for so long. So it's always fun to see them and get to play against them in a real game.
Collin, both the team and you individually are just having a great start to the season. One of the things we talk a lot about on this podcast is just kind of hustle. I just wanted to ask you kind of about your approach to something in particular. Like, you have a great all around game, but really what pops off is like your rebounding as a guard. I know it's been a priority for Coach Ott that all you guys are crashing a little bit more often, but can you maybe just speak to what allows you to excel so much at that portion of your game as, compared to other NBA guards?
Yeah, I think it's just competing, playing hard, um, and then obviously doing the little things. Every night's not going to be your night shooting or doing stuff that uh, offensively. So you have to go in there, scrap out rebounds, help the bigs out. And then, yeah, just playing hard. Obviously, I think that's something that you can control. You can't control if your shots are going to go in every night, but you can control your effort, your attitude, how hard you play. So those are things that I pride myself on.
It seems like that type of thing is what got you the nickname Villain Jr. as well. I listened to you talking to Kellen Olson about that, getting that nickname from Dylan Brooks. It almost sounds as if you nicknamed yourself that. How did that come about, and what happened in order for you to get that nickname?
Yeah, it was kind of started as a joke because Dylan was kind of calling himself villain. That's kind of how he introduced himself to the team in the group chat. So uh, just playing pickup with him, um, and then just like competing against him, I was like kind of joking around when I said it, and then he kind of said it to the media, and it kind of took off. So it started out as a joke, and then um, he said it to the media, and it just took off from there. But
I
yeah.
noticed when you were talking to Kellen about it, you said he was acting crazy even in pickup games. What type of stuff was he doing even that early against teammates?
I mean, he just talks a ton. Obviously, you see it now, the little stuff that he does on the floor. He does all that same stuff whenever he plays. Like, it's like his thing that he has. Like when he gets in between the lines, he's a different person, and that's why I think he calls himself villain. So I think it's just something that he has. When he gets between those lines, it's like a flip switches in his head, and he's a different kind of guy.
Collin, a couple of close losses aside early on in the season, I think everyone around the Valley is pretty stoked about where you guys are right now. I just wanted to ask, like, as pro athletes, obviously you try and tune out a lot of the outside noise, but to what extent were you guys kind of aware of what the expectations of you as a group were going into the season? And just now you're 13 games in, how do you feel about like being where you are, being potentially in a play-in spot, potentially in a low playoff seed right now? Do you feel like you're sort of proving some people wrong already, or is it just a long season and you got a long way to go?
Yeah, I mean it's 82 games. You can't get too high, too low. Obviously, we're not like not on social media and we don't not see things. So obviously we see a lot of stuff, and before the season we saw a lot of stuff, and uh, our group has a lot of confidence in each other, and we know that we could prove a lot of people wrong this year. We just got to stick to our habits, stick to our core foundation, our values, continue to do things the right way, and we can kind of control the controllables and continue to play hard, continue to learn and grow every day, just get a little bit better. But right now, I think we're in a good spot. But like we just talk about getting a little bit better each day. Obviously, we're not going to overthink too much or look too much into it. We're 13 games in, and
Mm-hmm.
the season is extremely long. So we got to take each day for what it is and just kind of get a little bit better each day and continue to grow as a team.
I know you talked in training camp about the things you were working on going into this season. how do you feel your role has changed? I know you talked about specifically shooting off the dribble a little bit more, trying to look for your shot off the dribble a little bit more. Just from last season, obviously, where you were really fighting for playing time and earned it as the season progressed, compared to this season, obviously you still have that mentality to fight for that time, but your role and what you're doing on the court, how do you feel it's changed from last season to this season?
Yeah, I just think there's more opportunity there. Um, as a two-way guy, you're kind of just fighting, scrapping, doing whatever it takes to get on the floor. And those habits haven't left, and I'll still do all those little things. I think it's just the aggressiveness, the assertiveness offensively to be aggressive, look for your shot, be able to get other guys involved, probably have the ball in my hands a little bit more to play make. But yeah, I mean, I don't look at it very differently from last year. I try to approach every game the same way. And that happened last year too, just approaching the game with an aggressive mindset, playing the right way, and trying to play winning basketball.
One guy you've definitely shared the floor a lot with both last season, this season is Oso Aguadaro. I don't know if you guys talked about it the other night after the Indiana game, but plus 52 was the third highest plus minus in NBA history, which is pretty crazy. I just think you guys have a great chemistry. You can see it when you share the floor. There was a play recently where he went between the legs on a handoff to you, and it just looks super smooth. So is that something that just comes from extra reps together, or was it sort of just like in the flow of the game? Is it something that you work on basically when you play with Oso?
I don't think it's something that we work on. I think it's just something that we've kind of been able to not work on, but like just do in playing together throughout the summertime. Obviously, we share the court a lot in the summer, working out, playing pickup. So just fine tuning that two-man game. He played that kind of style in college, and I was able to play against him and then also see it from afar. So I kind of know how he likes to play, and he kind of knows how I like to play. So we just know each other's games really well, and um, we're both like winning players, just try to affect winning offensively, defensively, however it may be. And uh, the other night he was awesome, and um, obviously we expect a lot out of him, so I don't think it came as a surprise to everybody. He was awesome all summer, dominating pickup games, so that didn't really shock us. But yeah, our two-man game, I think it'll continue to grow the more reps we get together, but we just have a comfortability together when we're out on the floor.
You know, your time in the NBA has been pretty fascinating considering the teams that you've been on. You got to play with an MVP in Nikola Jokic and technically another MVP in Kevin Durant, maybe not an MVP season. And then, of course, all of your time with Devin Booker, specifically Jokic and Booker, two drastically different NBA players, but two guys who found ways to be great in the NBA. Obviously, play style dramatically different. When you think about your time with those players in practice or in games, is there something similar between those two guys that they share, even though their game style is different? Is it like a mentality thing, or what have you noticed between those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the great players in the NBA and across the league have a lot of similarities in mindset. And although they do play extremely different, their approach to coming to work every day is the same. How they work, details of the game, stuff like that. And both of them, those two specifically, they really care about winning, and they'll do whatever it takes to win basketball games. And KD is the same way, obviously. Um, but the one thing that out about him was his work ethic and um, the way he kind of approached every day and work. But the other two, they're very similar in mindset for sure.
Mike, can we go rapid fire real quick?
Sure.
Unless you got anything else. Collin, I just got a couple rapid fire questions for you. I saw you on TikTok the other day through the Suns account. It was World Kindness Day or something. You were giving some love to your teammates. I just want to know a couple things about how you guys operate. First of all, who do you want on Ox? Who is on Ox most common on this team in the locker room?
Probably Royce.
Probably Royce. Is that the way you
Royce,
like it? Or is there
Royce or Goody. Goody before games, Royce if we're just like chilling in the locker room.
Okay. Who do you not want on Ox? If I could get you to critique the guys a little bit.
Um, if I'm just like chilling every day, probably whoever is putting on Young Boy. Because if they play Young Boy like throughout the day when I don't have a game, then I'm really not going for it.
Mike, you got anything else?
No, I mean, I do have one thing that I wanted to mention that I would be remiss to not mention. Do you know, first of all, do you know about the Dan Marley Hustle Player of the Year? Have you heard of this?
Yes.
Okay, so the Phoenix Suns obviously do their own Dan Marley Hustle Player of the Year. Last year, Ryan Dunn won. I'm sure you were disappointed that you didn't win that one. I do want to mention, though, that on our podcast, we do 2 podcasts a week. Last year, we started tracking hustle plays on our podcast, and we would award a hustle player of the week. And then the player at the end of the year that had the most hustle player of the weeks, we decided was our own hustle player of the year. And last year, even though you missed part of the season with your injury in the first part of the season, you actually had the most weeks in our podcast that we awarded you hustle player of the week. So I want to say on behalf of this podcast, you were the very first what we call the Timeline's Dan Marley Hustle Player of the Year of the Week of the year. So congratulations, Collin. We appreciate what you did last season very much.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Of course. Sam, you got anything else?
No, nothing else. Thanks for the time, Collin.
Yes,
keep
Collin.
having a great season, man. This is
I
great.
appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Two of my favorite things are coffee and basketball. You start your morning with coffee every morning, and that means you should treat yourself right in the morning, every morning, to start your day well. The best way to do that is with coffee from Alchemy Roast. Go to alchemyroaster.com and use the promo code Timeline to buy some coffee today. Alchemy Roast is a Metro Phoenix-based coffee roaster that focuses on the transformational process of coffee from seed to cup. They're about more than just coffee. It's about passion, dedication, and community. They're a small batch roastery committed to sourcing the finest beans and mastering the art of the roast, and they do it ethically. I love their coffee. I start my day with it every single morning. I make espresso. You can make pour over. You can make drip coffee. You can make anything with it. Just go to alchemyroaster.com today and use the promo code Timeline. Get 10% off. Support us here at the podcast. Alchemy Roast is the best coffee. That's alchemyroaster.com. Promo code Timeline at checkout.
The Kia Sportage Turbo Hybrid has a bold design, a spacious interior with 232 horsepower, and a 12.3-inch panoramic display to keep the adventure going and fit with the way you live. And with SiriusXM, every drive comes alive, bringing you closer to the music, sports, talk, and podcasts you love, right in your vehicle or on the SiriusXM app. Every SiriusXM-equipped Kia Sportage Turbo Hybrid includes a 3-month trial subscription to SiriusXM, so the experience begins the moment you drive. Learn more at kia.com/sportage-hybrid. Kia, movement that inspires.
'Tis the season of gifting and halls to deck, and the Who's and Who Newville were in love with new tech. Where can we find Sonos and Samsung and Nintendo, they shouted. Would they find it in one place? This they questioned and doubted. When suddenly a Who yelled, Walmart's the place to start! And each Who added headphones, TVs, and games to their carts. With Walmart, their shopping was done in a flurry. They cried out, Who knew? And ordered their gifts in a hurry. Shop the latest tech gifts in the Walmart app.
All right, that was fun. It was really cool for you and I, after 8 years, to finally have an active NBA player on the podcast. Shout out to Collin Gillespie.
Shout out again to Collin. Another big little milestone moment for us, I guess. I don't know what you would call it exactly. It was a big moment, I know, for us when we got JJ on the pod a couple years back. He was still a former player at the time, sort of in his analyst era. We've never been able to get one of the current Suns players on the pod until now. So again, thank you to Suns. Thank you to Collin Gillespie for making that happen.
Shout out to them. Yeah, so let's talk about how this team has been playing lately. So we mentioned they finally lost a game. They had 5 wins in a row. They came back in this game against Atlanta. Atlanta, who, by the way, no Trae Young and no Porzingis. Now, admittedly, going into this game, once they announced that Grayson Allen was going to be out, I was concerned about this game because in the way that Phoenix Suns has been playing lately, they've really relied on guys to create outside of Devin Booker. They've been surprisingly good without Devin Booker on the floor because of guys, of course, like the person we just had on the podcast, Collin Gillespie, but also Grayson Allen, who's made a massive difference. And of course, in one game, Jalen Green, who played really great in that one game. So going into this game, we're looking at a game that has Devin Booker playing, Collin Gillespie playing, but all of a sudden no Grayson Allen. And of course, Jalen Green is going to be out for a few weeks still. That's going to be tough. Like, no matter what, that's going to be tough. But this team really found a way to fight in this game, and surprisingly, did it in the minutes without Devin Booker on the floor. Now, we, of course, mentioned Collin Gillespie playing really well. Jordan Goodwin, who just last week on the Patreon podcast won for that last week's Hustle Player of the Week for us. Jordan Goodwin, another awesome game by him. The minutes with those two guys on the floor really flipped the game, and they played really well. The thing about this team that we've talked about all season, there's been multiple times where we've said last year's team would have lost. Last year's team would have lost that game. Stuff like that. In this game, they lost a pretty big lead, and they collapsed pretty dramatically. Atlanta scored 47 points in the fourth quarter, and they did it with, the quote-unquote starters in this game.
47 is crazy.
It really is crazy, man. They scored
number.
So many points. And yeah, I'm just curious, like, we really saw how good they could be and how scrappy they could be in this game. How concerned are you in the fact that they fully collapsed in this game as well? Like, both of those things happened in this game.
How concerned am I? I mean, yeah, again, it goes back to what your expectations are of this team. First of all, I think all of us have always understood that there are going to be growing pains with this team as they learn to work together. I guess what's concerning here is that, like, specifically, you allow a much longer leash to younger players who are learning about the NBA and learning to play together. What was so bizarre about this game is that the bench really got them a huge lead, and then the starters come in up 21, and Devin Booker and Dylan Brooks and, like, guys who are supposed to be rock solid and steadying the ship for them, they're kind of the ones who blew it. They are the ones who blew it. And I don't think we should shy away from, like, when Devin Booker has a bad game and it's kind of on him. And in this case, it was kind of on him. Now, that being said, like, I do think, some people were blowing things out of proportion a little bit. Like, let's not lose sight of the fact, for instance, that Dylan Brooks for the past two games has a combined 65, 66 points. He's making every tough shot, every mid-range, everything in the post. It's like, yes, he had a stupid technical foul in the fourth quarter against the Hawks. He did. And then he goes, after the game and is asked about it, and he complains about the refs instead of sort of taking accountability for the fact that they blew a 21-point lead. I'm not happy about that either. However, he's also been so good for the past two games that it's like, I can't find it within me to totally freak out about this. And for Booker as well, like, yeah, I know he took a couple of bad shots. He missed Mark Williams on that one lob. Everyone's talking about that one lob opportunity that he took a three instead.
Didn't even need to be a lob. He could have just passed it to him.
Yep. And like, yeah, that was a bad decision from Devin Booker. He made a mistake. He's still been the engine of this offense through 13 games, and the net rating with him on the court overall is still really good. And, like, I just can't find it within me to freak out too much about this one game, even though, yes, I understand they should have won it, and I wanted to win it.
I think part of what the problem was in this game in particular is Atlanta just has the perfect mix of defenders that bother Devin Booker. Devin Booker's bothered by guys that are bigger and longer than him if they're capable of defending him. And he's going to face that more this year without Kevin Durant. When Kevin Durant was on the team, although, of course, it didn't always go well for the Suns, he often faced the smaller defenders because you got to put the big, long guys on KD. You don't need to do that anymore. You can put those big, long guys on Devin Booker, and in those games, having extra help, extra sort of pressure release valves for him is going to be what makes them successful. So often in this game in particular, just getting Dyson Daniels off the ball and Devin Booker playing decoys so somebody like Dylan Brooks can shoot was something that actually did help this game. And I think it can be frustrating as a fan to watch that, just sort of seeing Devin Booker be passive. But taking the best defender out of the play occasionally is still helpful. He does need to be better.
Atlanta,
he does.
Just real quick on Atlanta, as I'm currently looking at their team page on Basketball Reference, they are 6th in the NBA in defensive rating, which is crazy. We're talking about the Atlanta Hawks.
Because Trae Young's out.
I was going to give you credit because, I don't think you were the first one to say this either, but when we were first talking about the Hawks, maybe on the Patreon pod last week that the game was coming up, you were like, well, Trae's out. That team has a different defensive identity when they are not playing Trae Young. Say what you will about Trae as the engine of their offense, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jalen Johnson and Reese Shea, by the way,
Dyson Daniels.
Reese Shea took a crazy fall in that game.
He looks pretty good too.
Other guy I want to shout out, Onyeka Okongwu looks awesome.
He killed us.
He's like really taken a leap. He's in like his 6th season now, and is finally the starting center there. At least when Porzingis doesn't play, but has taken a leap as a stretch big now, and just absolutely destroyed us. But yeah, they have a lot of switchable defenders, long guys who are 6'8", and you're totally right. That's going to be a challenge for the Suns. Any game that they go up against players like that.
Dallas was another team that had a bunch of big guys to put on Devin Booker, and he struggled a little bit in that game as well. I think this is one of those games where you got to learn a lesson. You know, some people were saying that Devin Booker needs to sit at a certain point of the game. You can't do that. You got to go down with him at a certain point. He is the guy. Win or lose in those games, the confidence that the team has in him is going to be important going forward. They, as a team, though, need to find better ways to score when teams have the right kind of mix of guys to put on Devin Booker. And it's never just one guy, by the way. It has to be more than one. That's just how it works with guys that are as good as Devin Booker. But, they sort of resorted to screening in a way that forces the switch and then attacking in isolation. I hate to say it, that's what basketball is sometimes. And that is what basketball is sometimes. And there is times where that works and there's times when it doesn't. But if they can find other ways to be successful when they're getting those switches in isolation, that would be really helpful. In this particular game, Royce O'Neal being unable to hit a 3 really impacted your ability to do that. No Grayson Allen really impacted your ability to do that. And ultimately, more than anything else, not having a guy like Jalen Green that you could swing the ball to and can attack downhill with speed is going to really impact it. So, it was a frustrating game to watch, and I think the way they lost was so frustrating. If it was just sort of a normal loss where they were down by 5-10 the whole game and they couldn't come back, that would be different. But the way they lost was so frustrating that I admit that it made me feel incredibly angry. But I do think, from a point of trying to learn something from this game to take going forward, there's some things you can learn, but the ultimate lesson when they play teams like this, having more good players who can score would probably be the most helpful thing in this scenario.
No, that's true. And certainly they're hurting for guards right now. And the roster, we've known this since the beginning. Even if Jalen Green was healthy, they've always been kind of hurting for dribble penetration. So it'll certainly help when Jalen Green is back, but the roster is just kind of not set up that way. I do want to bring this up, though, because you're talking about they need other guys who can score. There's one guy who I know can score on this team who is not being maximized. And it's kind of a conversation that I want to have. His name is Mark Williams, to not,
bury the lead here, yeah.
To not, bury the lead or make you wait on that. Because, look, everyone's talking about that one play where Booker missed Mark Williams on, again, could have been an overhead pass, could have been a lob, whatever. I don't want to freak out over that one play. But I do think that one play is endemic of a greater issue that we've seen throughout this season. And I don't even know if I would call it an issue yet. But I think there are several things true about the Suns right now at once. And it's kind of puzzling to me. And I just want to throw it at you and see what you think about it. Because all of this is true, right? First of all, Mark Williams, last 3 games that he's played, he missed one in here. But against the New Orleans Pelicans, played 20 minutes, took 1 shot, finished with 2 points. Against Dallas, 26 minutes, went 5 of 6, had 10 points. And then against Atlanta, 28 minutes, 4 of 5 from the field, 8 points. So really not scoring a lot in his last few appearances. And yet, I think both of us would probably agree that Mark Williams has been critical to their success this year, that he's been pretty good, that he's finding ways to be impactful outside of scoring the basketball, and that's great. I think he's impressed both of us with his defense, his ability to switch more than we anticipated, and all of that's great. At the same time, the stats say that when Devin Booker and Mark Williams share the floor this season, the Suns are a +9 net rating. That's really good. And yet there's a third thing, which is if you look at Devin Booker's numbers, and I was doing that this morning, when he plays with Mark Williams versus when he plays with the other centers, his stats dip when he plays with Mark Williams, and they dip considerably. The team is still playing well, and Mark Williams is still being impactful, and Devin Booker is still being impactful. But there's something about the chemistry between those two guys that isn't fitting right now, and we need to figure it out because it doesn't feel like it's been as sustainable an offensive pairing as it should be given the talent of those two players. What do you make of kind of their chemistry or lack thereof so far?
It's a really good point. And let me ask you this. Who's the best center in that metric? When just looking at Devin Booker's numbers, who does Devin Booker play the best with offensively right now?
It's Oso Ighodaro, and it's not close. And this might surprise people a little bit because, some people at least, because, look, Oso has been, save for one game where he was +52, he's been kind of bad this season. And yet, I'll give you the stats right now. These are from Data Baller. I love the fact that they track these metrics. Devin Booker, with Oso Ighodaro on the floor this season, per 75 possessions, that's like more or less, like a per 36-minute type stat. With Oso Ighodaro on the floor, Devin Booker, 34 points, 8 assists, and 68% true shooting. Without Oso Ighodaro on the floor, obviously the vast majority of that being with Mark Williams, but also a little bit of Nick Richards, a little bit of whoever else. 26.5 points. He falls from 34 points to 26.5. He falls from 8 assists to 6.5. And his true shooting falls from 68% with Oso to 60%, still really good, but only 60% without Oso. And I think there's a bunch of stuff that goes into it, right?
I have a theory. Yeah.
You go first.
Screening. Oso Ighodaro is a very good screener. Now, it's not the most fun analysis to talk about, but screening, particularly in the modern NBA, is so different than what it used to be. You have to change angles in an instant in the way that teams are defending. You have to react to whether or not they're switching, to whether or not they're icing, to whether or not they're playing drop coverage, because oftentimes teams will do all three in a single quarter. So you have to understand the coverage that's coming. Sometimes you have to flatten out the screen and essentially screen facing the offensive player, or you have to flip the angle at the last second to make sure that they can't switch properly or ice properly. And Oso Ighodaro, oftentimes you hear how people describe him. You hear how his teammates describe him. You hear how Jordan Ott describes him. And the first thing they always say is his IQ. They always point out his IQ. There's a lot of different ways you can be successful as a high IQ basketball player. But one of the things is screening. And Oso Ighodaro is a really good screener. He's gotten very good at it. In fact, I believe our friend Stephen Pridgeon at PHNX has a couple of great questions he's asked Oso Ighodaro, particularly about his screening throughout this year and who he likes to watch. And one of the players he mentioned was Draymond Green. Now, he's not getting away with as much as what Draymond Green gets away with when it comes to his screening, because they're going to call fouls on Oso that they wouldn't call on Draymond. But Oso does a really good job helping get other guys open. And for Booker, it's not just about his ability to score after that. The help will come too, and he can get more assists out of that as well. I do think Mark Williams can't do some of that because part of it is being really quick, and Mark Williams is just bigger. But I also think Oso Ighodaro played with Booker last year, right? So the idea of them having more chemistry together just makes sense. I think Mark Williams and Booker can get more time together figuring it out, and I'd like to see how they can do that. I do think, to your point, and of course I'm wondering what your theory is about Oso as well, to your point about him being able to score more, this team has, it's been so important in the minutes that they play that they hit threes. Their offense has been so predicated on their ability to take a lot and make a lot of 3-pointers. And, like sometimes that will turn itself into, points in the inside for Mark Williams, for Oso Gadar, for Nick Richards. But, often
you mean on just like offensive rebounds
or teams are just overplaying the three and then it gives a wide open dunk or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I do think they need to look for threes consistently now and more than ever, and they need to continue to be in the top 5 of 3-pointers attempted. And that does, not leave a lot of shots for other places on the floor, admittedly.
I mean, my biggest frustration here, because I think here's what it is. I know Mark Williams is a talented offensive player because we've seen him post 30-point games in Charlotte. Now, that was Charlotte. And so I'm not saying that the answer here in a sort of DeAndre Ayton-esque way, this was an argument we always had about right. DeAndre. I'm not saying to just force-feed him paint touches. I think he deserves a couple paint touches a game because he has good touch.
Especially in transition,
That's where I was going to go with this. Yeah. But he had a couple of paint touches last night that he converted on. That doesn't mean it's going to be like the focal point of the offense. But you need to find a way to keep the defense honest and reward Mark Williams for his effort too, particularly in transition. And that's why I'm glad you brought that up. Like, I don't know. It's just weird to me. He's down to 11 points per game, 8 rebounds. And I think the defense is there, but I think the offensive talent is just he should be giving you 15 and 10. Even if he's only playing 20, 25, 26 minutes a game.
Yeah.
I think the faster that they can play, because as surprisingly good as this team has been so far in the season, we have been kind of asking ourselves, wait, why are they 24th, 25th, 26th in pace, wherever they currently are? Why aren't they playing faster? If you trust Mark Williams to switch and to stay with a guard, and he's not going to do it every possession, but every third, fourth, fifth, whatever possession, if you trust Mark Williams to switch and you've got bodies, wings, guards even, that are willing to crash and then get that defensive rebound, then Mark Williams needs to be sprinting down the floor, sealing off a small, and then you need to be looking for him with a kick ahead and getting easy transition points that way. And that's just not really something they've been able to exploit so far. And I'm not 100% sure I know why that is.
I think it would help to have someone as fast as Jalen Green on the floor once again. But yeah, it is. You're right. It is something that they should reward him with, especially because he makes his free throws. So if he does seal off on a young guy or a small guy down there, and they get the ball to him and he just fouls him, that's probably 2 points most of the time, and also a foul on maybe one of their guards, which is still really helpful. I will say, Royce went 1 for 9 in this game, this last game against Atlanta. And it's just tough because it's like, yes, they can find other guys who can help score and stuff like that. But if Royce just had a normal game, which to be fair, this is kind of a normal Royce game. Like we talked about it with him before. He'll go like 4 for 6 in a game and then he'll go 1 for 8 in the next one. And that's just kind of who he is. Sometimes you have to deal with guys like this who just shoot a ton of threes. But if he had a normal game for what we expect out of him, the Suns would have a much better chance. It's rare. He started and he scored 3 points. Tough game in this game for someone like Royce. But, I do agree, though. I wonder, he even had a post up in this last game where he scored on a little hook shot. Maybe there is more juice to squeeze, out of that, specifically for Mark Williams. And maybe the Suns can find ways to experiment with that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most encouraging things about the Suns so far this season is that they are really efficient from every spot on the floor. They've been making their threes. They've been good at the rim, and they've been good in the mid-range. I think they're still figuring out the balancing act, though, of the frequency aspect of that, right? They're taking a ton of threes. I don't mind that they're taking a ton of threes. But I don't think we should neglect the rim portion of the equation too, because when you can get layups and dunks, those are still the most efficient shots. Unless you're shooting 60% from 3, which this is a good 3-point shooting team, but they're not that good. You always want to make sure that you're not neglecting the layup and dunk aspect, and Mark Williams can really help there. They need to find a way to juice the chemistry with him a little bit.
The Kia Sportage Turbo Hybrid has a bold design, a spacious interior with 232 horsepower, and a 12.3-inch panoramic display to keep the adventure going and fit with the way you live. And with SiriusXM, every drive comes alive, bringing you closer to the music, sports, talk, and podcasts you love right in your vehicle or on the SiriusXM app. Every SiriusXM-equipped Kia Sportage Turbo Hybrid includes a 3-month trial subscription to SiriusXM, so the experience begins the moment you drive. Learn more at kia.com/sportage-hybrid. Kia, movement that inspires.
If you're looking for new ways to get ahead, then you're our kind of person. We're Udemy, and we help learners like you upskill in AI, productivity, leadership and management, and more. Learn at your own pace from real-world experts. You can also prep for certifications that show employers what you know. Upskill for the career you want at udemy.com. Now, back to your regularly scheduled listening.
It's November 17th. And I'm about to have a conversation about trades with you. Is this the earliest?
No.
In a season where we talked about trades?
I don't think so. I think well, it's hard because last year on November 17th the Suns were probably 9-4, or they were good still. Yeah. So I guess
they're good right now. I mean, they're not good, but they're above 500 right now. They're not bad. But there's just been some narratives that have popped up in the NBA so far that it just makes sense to have this conversation now about a couple of players, because not only are these conversations sort of happening outside of us, the Suns have been brought up in some of these conversations as well. So I think it's worth it to talk about these players, and the players I want to talk about are pretty simple. In fact, let's start with the one maybe people are less interested in, or maybe less surprised by this conversation. Nico Harrison was fired by the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I want to start by saying the Suns don't have a ton of assets here.
What did he do?
It's a good question, man.
Come on.
It's a good
what
question.
What murder? He didn't do anything.
You know what he did? He was not a coward.
That's so true, man.
Yeah.
He stood on business.
He did what he believed in, yeah. But, what that has led to is a conversation about what the future of the Dallas Mavericks are. And the Dallas Mavericks, I think there's a version of this team, because they own their pick in this coming draft. There's a version of this team where they start to shed good players and they try to rebuild specifically around the combination of Cooper Flagg and one other, good young player that they draft in the upcoming draft. And that means Anthony Davis could be traded. Now, not even to get into, we can, but let's start with just the idea of it. Not even to get into how complicated it would be for the Suns to put together just the salary alone to get a player like Anthony Davis. We can talk about it, but just conceptually, we've talked about the types of guys that fit with Devin Booker. Anthony Davis is one of those guys at his best. It's hard to know if Anthony Davis will be at his best for the rest of his career. He's already been injured a lot this year. He looks a little out of shape when you just see him. What do you think, just starting here with the idea of Anthony Davis on this Suns team?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. This is would be moving in the wrong direction for the Suns for sure. I respect Anthony Davis and obviously the contributions throughout his career. When he's healthy, he's an awesome player, but I don't know that Anthony Davis will ever have a season where he plays 60 games again. So, the idea of that being a guy that you pay $55 to $60 million to, which is what you'd be on the hook for, and you have to give up all these assets for it, which I don't even know if the Suns have, but since you're asking me, I'm good. Non-starter for me.
Picture yourself, recording a podcast with me in March of 2025, and the Phoenix Suns are 10 games under 500 or whatever they were, and we're doing fake Kevin Durant trades every single week because it's very clear what's coming for this team at the end of the season. If I had come to you at that point and said, Kevin Durant for Anthony Davis,
straight up,
yeah,
it's
and here's why I ask:
Jalen
Green, Dillon Brooks, and Malawach can be traded for him. It would probably work salary wise.
Yeah, I'm good.
So you're essentially trading everything that you got outside of the second round picks, which led to Rasheer Fleming. So we're keeping Rasheer Fleming. Trading everything else for him. What do you think?
How many 30-point games does Anthony Davis have this season? 0. How many does Dylan Brooks have? He has 2. I'm good. I'm seriously good. I mean, I think, if you recall that kind of crazy time in the history of this podcast where we did one, for those who remember last season, we did one Kevin Durant fake trade for about 16 weeks straight leading up to the
fake
summer.
Trades. It wasn't always Kevin Durant, but it was like Kevin Durant like 75% of the time.
I drizzled some Bradley Beal ones in there to keep things interesting. Yeah. But, I think there was a consistent theme, and that theme was even when I was trading for players who were so-called, kind of at the bottom of where their perceived value was, players that you could kind of reform their value. They were still young. It wasn't like players past the age of 30. It would be like I talked about Lauri Markkanen. Look how awesome Lauri Markkanen looks this year. It's already such a bounce back year for him. But it was players like that who were like, yeah, they were making a lot of money, but they're 26 years old. They're not 32 with an injury history. I just have no desire to lean back into that identity just because we have Devin Booker on the roster. I don't think it's the best thing for him. I don't think it's the best thing for us.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's tough to say that because I also think there's a world where if Anthony Davis was healthy all season and we're having the same conversation, that I would feel differently. It's just there's so many red flags with him, man. He doesn't look healthy. He doesn't look physically healthy. He hasn't been able to play. He's missed most of the games since he was traded to Dallas. Literally, more than half of the games since he was traded to Dallas. And yeah, I don't know, bad vibes. Like part of me, I have a theory, by the way, that we do over-unders every year on this podcast, and then on our Patreon, you and I actually gamble on futures about the NBA season, and then we track it by the end of the year. We see who won the most money. It's usually you. It's only been you. But part of me, now that I'm this far into this season,
we feed prop bets to NBA players to see if we can entice them.
It's right.
We have a long-standing relationship with Chauncey. Mm-hmm. Just kidding, FBI. Don't come after me.
They're not Patreons. Oh no, this is a regular feed.
This is a regular feed.
Okay. I have this theory now that I'm like, next year, I'm just going to do over-unders for NBA teams based entirely on vibes. Who's got the good vibes and who's got the bad vibes? The Suns had good vibes. I would have given them the over. The Clippers had bad vibes. I would have given them an under. If I would have just bet entirely based on vibes, I think that maybe that's a good way to do it. And I've underrated how important vibes are. But to that point, Anthony Davis, kind of bad vibes right now. And now that I believe in that, I'm going to say no. And it's really tough because that could sound stupid. It's just one of those things that could sound stupid. But I did find myself thinking, like, what would I have felt about... Like, Anthony Davis in a first-round pick got Luka Doncic, and we're talking about not trading Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green and Malawach, who, Malawach is sort of a mystery box, but hasn't played at all this season. We're talking about saying no to that, yeah.
What's fun about Malawach is because he hasn't played this season, I can continue to pretend that he could be anything.
Yeah.
So, like, on the one hand, it's a little concerning that Malawach hasn't played this season, that they don't trust him to play over Nick Richards.
It didn't exactly tear the league down in the G League, too.
I wish they did. I saw his stats, but I didn't watch that game.
I did. That's bad.
But I will say, was he actually bad, though?
You
watched the game?
I watched after we finished recording, so I watched like 3/4 of the game.
For those who didn't know, the Rasheer Fleming and Kaman Malawach were sent down to the Valley Suns for one game. They played on Saturday night, that was.
What I was hoping for was confidence that he will be good soon. And what I didn't get is that. Because, like Oso Ighodaro goes down to the G League and plays one game and he has like 24 rebounds and 19 points or whatever, And you just hope that something like that happens when...
Oso is a way older. Oso is like
facts,
22.
Yeah. 100%. You're absolutely right. But, you just want to see him look a little bit better than he did in that game.
So you watched the game and I didn't. So I have no authority to say this, but I'm just going to ignore whatever happened down there. And okay. I'm gonna maintain my opinion.
The Suns didn't ignore it because they got a guard immediately afterwards, who we're going to talk about soon.
I'm going to maintain my opinion that Kaman Malawach is just Anthony Davis with a 7'11" standing reach or wingspan, 7'11" wingspan and 9-foot standing reach, whatever it is. So there you go.
You want to talk about vibes players a little bit more?
Sure.
Ja Morant. This is another guy who, when you see, here's 5 Ja Morant trades, the Suns are often included in these trades as a team that could potentially trade for Ja Morant. just from the overall concept of needing another star next to Devin Booker. Ja Morant's really good, and he has not been really good this season. And like he does have some injury issues, nothing like Anthony Davis. But there's also other things going on with him. He seems to be he essentially like complained enough to get their coach fired last year and seems to be really unhappy with the coach they have this year.
Their successful coach fired in spite of the fact that what they were doing was working.
Yeah, it was working.
I point out they were good.
Yeah,
I mean,
and now Miami's doing the same thing, using one of their assistant coaches, and it's working really well in Miami as well.
They weren't world beaters or anything, but like you look, we've said this for years about Memphis. You look at their roster, and it's like, where is the talent? But Taylor Jenkins always had them in tip-top shape. And now he's gone, and they're struggling. And Ja Morant is shooting 36% from the field in 12 games. And he still can't shoot threes. Well, I'll let you pitch it. Like,
He still can't shoot threes, and he doesn't really play defense. So sorry, I'm not pitching it very well right now. But
I mean, this is just a complete. Again, I said Anthony Davis was a non-starter. This is just a complete no. Like, you'd have to be insane to even think that this was a good idea.
Yeah, I am with you, although I think it's easier to envision this working than it is Anthony Davis. Now, Anthony Davis, in a perfect world, is the best fit with Devin Booker, as we've said. Just so much of the defense that he brings, he can just play at like best defender in the NBA level defense when he's healthy. So that works. It's just so rare that he's healthy. Ja Morant is just one, when he's good, and I want to preface that because it could be just that he's unhealthy, is one of the best and most electric playmakers in the NBA, creating for himself and creating for others. He's really good. He's like the best version of Jalen Green in some ways, outside of the shooting. But yeah, there's all that other stuff. Like he hasn't really gotten better year over year.
He's literally gotten worse. As a matter of fact, if you go and look at his stats right now, he won Most Improved Player in the 2021-22 season. When he was 22 years old, he averaged 27 points a game. His scoring has dipped every single season since then. Yeah, and his efficiency too. His let me see what the true shooting says. Yeah, his true shooting numbers. He peaked at 58% that year that he won Most Improved. Since then, he's gone from 58, 56, 57, 56, 48 this year. Through
God,
12
that's
games.
so bad. And it really feels like just the way he plays is so violent that it just feels like there's an injury just waiting to happen there. And I'm going to knock on wood right now just to be safe. But
I certainly do not wish any more injuries coming that guy's way. But history is just not super kind to players like this who don't rapidly evolve. And I don't see it in Ja. Like, I don't see the will within Ja to evolve his game and become like, a sharpshooter in some form, or like, a guy who can suddenly start relying much more on his side-to-side shift, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander style shiftiness, than just going full throttle, forward back type speed. I don't really see it. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this is a guy we're going to be talking about for a long time as like, wow, remember how good that guy was when he was 22 years old? And that was just the peak of his career.
I'm not going to go that far. I think there's definitely a chance, but I also think there's a chance that he gets traded to another team and he's awesome. I do think there's a chance. There's sometimes guys wear out their welcome in some places and they just feel really unhappy, and then they find ways to be successful elsewhere. And maybe that's something that's happening with Ja Morant. But I'm going to say that I don't think that the Suns, with as little of the assets the Suns have. I will say this too, though. He's playing poorly and he's unhappy. Like, you could probably get him for not that much, and the Suns don't have that much. So, like, as far as making a trade that could potentially have a high upside, this is the type of move that I could see how people would talk themselves into. I'm with you, though. I don't want either of these guys. I think there's I would really like Anthony Davis on the Suns. I'm going to say that again. I just don't like that he's unhealthy. So to me, it's not necessarily about play style or anything with Anthony Davis. I think he would be a really good fit. Ja Morant, on the other hand, I do think there's play style issues that could make it untenable going forward. All and all the other stuff with him being unhappy, his dad being courtside, like all of that stuff that comes with him, I just think could be something that the Suns culturally just don't really have a culture that's like built out well enough to be able to sustain something successful with that. If they have years and years of being good, a coach that's been here for a long time that's established, then maybe I'd be more open to it. I just think things are sort of on a razor's edge as it is, and you can't just throw John Morant in there and cross your fingers and hope it's going to be great. As exciting as it is to be over 500 after 14 games or whatever the Suns are at, I just don't think they're ready for that. But the other guy, you mentioned him.
What other guy?
This player last year averaged 19 points, and 6 rebounds or whatever. And this year he's averaging 30 points and 6 rebounds. And 2 assists, and that's Lauri Markkanen.
Markkanen. I didn't know you were going to bring him up.
I did want to do it. I was not going to tell you, but you brought him up too. So
we should have bought low. I mean, I don't think we had the opportunity to buy low. That's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the 10th pick. Maybe, like if they had packaged, like, because to get to Lauri's salary at this point, you start with Jalen Green. You basically have to start with Jalen Green. And I think to get to something that they would even be happy with, you have to include Malawach. So you're starting with 2 of the guys that were in there, and then you probably have to throw in like Royce to get the salary there. So the question is for someone like Markkanen, who's played really well this season, and like is playing up to that contract, if not beyond it. He's been one of the better players in the NBA so far this year. Individually,
he's been a top 15 player in the NBA. I mean, he's averaging 31 points per game on good efficiency.
Really good efficiency, and just his movement shooting at his size is absurd. Like for what the way the Suns are playing, if you watch some Lowry highlights, Jordan Ott would love him. He would fit right in with this team. I think he would be a really good partner for Devin Booker offensively. And by the way, they're so desperately needing size, and getting a guy who's 7 foot that can play 3 or 4. The question is Jalen Green, Royce O'Neal, Malawach. Would you do that? I guess is the question. And the answer for me, by the way, since I'm putting you on the spot, is I don't know. It's not like the other guys where I feel pretty strongly. In this way, I'm like, I might do that.
It's just power forward is such a weakness for the Suns right now, which is why it's really tempting. I just wish I knew what Malawach was a little bit more.
Yeah, I know.
But it's the fact that I don't know, to go back to it, that makes me think, maybe I should sell high on Malawach. Maybe I should get Lauri Markkanen. I'm going against what I was just about to say, which is that the Suns, it's encouraging that they're 8-6, but I was gonna plead with Matt Ishbia to stay the course, that this is not the time to just like go after the shiny toy. But if it's a shiny enough toy, I might be enticed myself.
It depends how shiny the toy is. Yeah, right.
Exactly. So that toy for me is not Anthony Davis. It's not John Morant. Markkanen. Here's the thing. Someone would be out there that would beat that offer, I think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
I think someone,
if they want picks, yeah.
Danny Ainge probably wants picks.
Yeah, have we looked
someone
up
can offer
Markkanen's
that.
agent? I'll look that up later. I think Lowry,
but I do
though,
just
if he's going to
conceptually
get traded, they should probably trade him soon because they're too good right now, and they need more good young players, and that means Markkanen needs to kind of get out of there for their sake.
I will also say Markkanen's not like a beacon of health throughout his career, but in his defense, first of all, he's 28, not like 33 or 32, whatever Anthony Davis is. Yeah. And also, the Jazz shut him down because they were tanking for a couple years.
Multiple years in a row, yeah.
Exactly. There are multiple years where it says that Markkanen played 50 games. He could have played 65 to 70, and they just didn't let him because they didn't want to win. Yeah. So, someone needs to get him out there, whether it's us or another team. If it's not going to be us, which I'm totally fine if it's not us, just trade him to the East. That's all I ask. Make the East more competitive. Put him on Detroit. Detroit, go get Lauri Markkanen and win 65 games and make the NBA Finals. Go and do something.
Yeah. You want Tobias Harris in that trade then?
I'm good. Good on that.
The Suns also had some news today. No CJ Huntley on the two-way contract anymore. He was cut, and they signed Jamari Bouye, a guard who played.
Good job.
Oh, thank you.
You got it right.
Thank you. I didn't realize I was being tested. Who played with the Austin Spurs, the San Antonio Spurs G League team this year, and has some good stats. And I really think this is as simple as Malawach went to the G League team. They did not have good guard play, even though Jamari is more of a score first type of guard. It seems based on his stats and some of the highlights I've seen, that's still helpful to a guy like Malawach. Just having a guard who's capable of doing some of the stuff that guys in the NBA could do, even if it's at a slightly lower level. If you want to develop guys in the G League, I think they were trying to find a guard who can help with that. And look, frankly, maybe they're worried about Collin Gillespie missing a game too, and they need somebody else to step in if Collin, Jalen, and Grayson are all out.
I mean, 1,000%. Like, we know Jalen's out for a while. Grayson, who knows? Collin Gillespie, he's been playing, like he's been battling for the last couple games, but you know, some of the shots of the camera on him shows that he's been struggling with something. I don't know if it's his back.
His back.
Yeah, I think
they said
his back
after one game too. Yeah,
I think his back has been stiffening up. So, you know, he's going to continue to play through that, but like they literally just might need another guard to break glass in case of emergency. By the way, I think you mentioned his name at the start of the podcast, but Jordan Goodwin, he's a guard. He's been awesome this week.
Really
Jordan
awesome.
Goodwin.
Yeah.
I continue to be impressed. He's doing all of the Jordan Goodwin stuff, which is hustling, pressuring, grabbing a crazy amount of rebounds, but like also his ability to give you just a little bit on the ball. It is kind of more than I was expecting. Like, I wasn't expecting any of that from Jordan Goodwin, and he's been quite good.
When he hit the pull-up three, when someone went under on him, I was like, dude, is there no limit to what this guy could do so far for this team? It really was like I did not expect that. I mentioned it. We want to talk about it before we get out of this one, but going forward, Portland tomorrow. We're recording this Monday night, so Portland Tuesday. They have 2 days off. So they got Wednesday, Thursday off. Then we have Minnesota on Friday. Two good teams currently in like playoff spots. And Portland, by the way, could be the team that if the Suns are trying to battle for a spot at the end of the year, beating Portland might actually matter. Portland been playing really well. Hopefully Grayson's back. I don't think we have any news about that yet. Fingers crossed that Grayson's back. Minnesota, obviously good. Anthony Edwards is also back. He was missing some games. And then we have a back-to-back Sunday, Monday against San Antonio and Houston. And going forward after that, we have Sacramento, who's not great, but then we have OKC, Denver, LA, Lakers, who've been good. Houston again, Minnesota, Warriors, Lakers. Tough stretch going forward. Of course, we don't know what state these teams are going to be in or what state the Suns are going to be in during these games. But coming out of that, which will be essentially right before Christmas, because after Christmas they have New Orleans, Washington. Like, they have some easier ones after that. But we're going up until Christmas. I think the Suns' record is going to be fascinating and could dictate what happens going forward, because if they have a good record after that, with all the health issues that they've had so far, it would be really, really impressive. And if they don't, it wouldn't be all that surprising. But I really hope they get healthy soon.
Yeah, I hope so too. This is how the Jordan Knott Coach of the Year narrative gets born. Right. Is, compete well through these games or go get Devin Booker his 5th All-Star appearance or whatever it is he's up to. I don't actually know. How many times has Book been an All-Star?
4. I think it's 4. Yeah.
Yeah, this would be 5. I'm always thinking about that, not because it really matters, but let's be honest.
I'm sure it matters to him. Yeah.
It matters to him. It matters because if in years where Book is good, in years where Book is an All-Star, it means the Suns are good, more likely than not. So that's why it matters to me. But also, I think about his Hall of Fame resume more than I'd like to admit. And All-Star appearances matter for your Hall of Fame resume. So, this is the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, is going to do a lot for their narratives this season.
That's right.
You can sense it in the way that, Lowe talked about the Suns for a few minutes on his podcast that came out today, and he mentioned all this stuff, the fact that they have a really hard schedule coming up. By the way, I want to shout out the Dunker Spot. With Nekias Duncan and Steve Jones Jr. had Steven, our friend over at PHNX, Steven Pridgeon Gardner, for an hour of Suns talk last week, and I thought that was a really good conversation, so I'd encourage people to go and check it out. It was recorded, pre-Atlanta game. Yeah. But yeah, you can sense in a lot of other outlets that I think national people are a little bit afraid to touch the Suns because they kind of they're anticipating that regression.
They need a signature victory for them to talk. They have to beat OKC or Houston or somebody like that.
I'm going to tell you right now, we're probably not beating OKC, but I would take Houston. I would take Houston or Denver for sure.
Yeah, like one of those games, I think then people will talk about them because that will feel more real. And I think that's fair from their perspective because it's like things are a little weird early in the season and things level out as the season progresses. So the Suns have to prove it. It's fair for them to have to prove it. They sucked last year. So they have to prove it
real quick
this year.
We kind of, skipped over him a little bit. I just want to say about Jamari Bouye. I don't know a ton. I looked up his stats. I watched some clips. Seems like a guy consistent with the identity of this team, which is that if we're going to bring you in and you're a guard who's only like 6'2", you're still going to battle.
You got to be a dog.
Yeah, you got to be a dog. You see a lot of effort in his defensive highlights, and a guy who can really anticipate the ball well. So I was encouraged by that. If he ends up playing any minutes with the big league club, which he certainly could, I think we're going to see another guy kind of consistent with what the quote unquote identity of this team is.
That's right. All right, that's all we got for this week. By the way, you heard, shout out Collin Gillespie once again for joining us on this podcast. Very excited to have him on. You heard, we essentially presented him with the title of the Timeline's Dan Marley Hustle Player of the Year, of the Week, of the Year for last year. If you want to hear us chronicle that race this year, you can do that on our Patreon, patreon.com/thetimeline. Join there, $6 a week for an extra podcast every week. That's where we track the Hustle Player of the Year, of the Week on that podcast. So join us, patreon.com/thetimeline. We appreciate you all for listening to us, and we'll be back with a Patreon episode later this week. Thanks, everyone.
The Kia Sportage Turbo Hybrid has a bold design, a spacious interior with 232 horsepower, and a 12.3-inch panoramic display to keep the adventure going and fit with the way you live. And with SiriusXM, every drive comes alive, bringing you closer to the music, sports, talk, and podcasts you love, right in your vehicle or on the SiriusXM app. Every SiriusXM-equipped Kia Sportage Turbo Hybrid includes a 3-month trial subscription to SiriusXM, so the experience begins the moment you drive. Learn more at kia.com/sportage-hybrid. Kia, movement that inspires.